to think about phenotypic data collection, the Angus Herd Improvement Records program has really been around for a really long time. So it dates back close to the early 60s is when we really started with that AHR data collection. And now it's really grown over the years, and where we have over, for instance, 10 million weaning weights that have been collected through that program and used into the genetic evaluation. And really what that AHR program is that we have our members enroll in those programs. So that allows us to not only use the data from a standpoint of running your national cattle evaluation and generating EPDs, but also doing further research on those phenotypes once they get sent into the office. And so that helps us keep Angus breeders on the cutting edge of technology, because we can kind of continue to mine that data for future tools and new tools. When we think back to when we first started building, the 50K chips, and we first started digging into these individual DNA markers on individual animals, in the early 2000s, the thought was, well, we're going to collect a bunch of genotypes and we're going to overlay them with phenotypes, and we're going to find every single causal SNP, right? Every single marker that controls weaning weight, or every single marker that controls birth weight. Since that time, we've all been humbled as animal breeders, and we've really found that these traits that we're dealing with, right, whether it's our moderately heritable traits, things like carcass traits and performance traits, or our lowly heritable traits like heifer pregnancy, they're really polygenic. So while that's humbled us, it's also shifted our thought process as well, because we know how valuable those phenotypes are to something like our genomic evaluation that we run here at the American Angus Association. The biggest thing that I see, especially with trying to collect, whether it's still collecting the phenotypes that we currently collect today, or really collecting new phenotypes, right? As you're trying to make selections within your own herd, you're trying to market your individual animals, trying to keep holistic records on your individual herd so you can make the right decision for yourself and for your commercial breeders. I think the reality is, if I run a genotype on my animal, but I haven't been recording any of those phenotypes, and a lot of the animals I'm using, whether they're the AI sires, they also haven't had many progeny recorded on those phenotypes. I can send in my genotype, I can fill in my hair shed box, but at the end of the day, it's going to be right around breed average. And why is it going to be around breed average? Well, it's going to be around breed average because I don't have any phenotypes, right, closely related to me that are going to deviate me off breed average. And so if I'm an early data recorder, or I'm just an avid data recorder, it's much easier, right, for me to find a winner, right, for me to find that animal that excels to the top of the breed for an individual trait, because of the fact that, hey, I've been recording data and I've been submitting those records and trying to characterize my cattle. And so we saw this same process happen when we released maternal wean calf value. That's our profitability index for the maternal side, from conception to the time that we wean those calves off. And we saw that our data recorders, our members that were really good data recorders for those maternal traits that we use inside of $M, things like docility, heifer pregnancy, mature cow size, those were the ones who found individual bulls that surfaced to the top, right, of that maternal wean calf value index. That wasn't because, we were rewarding those people for collecting that data, but by collecting that data, they were actually able to make better selection practices, and now they're leaders in a trait. Now we're starting to see more members play a little bit of catch up, get some more mature weights in, get some more foot scores, more docility scores in, and they're starting to deviate their cattle too. And so that's one of those things that, you can't necessarily find the winners if you don't send in, right, the data. Now, don't get me wrong, you're going to find some losers too. That's the way this works. But at the end of the day, you're going to be in a much better off position because you've actually characterized your cattle for that trait.